My mentor, Eben Pagan, told me that the key to success is speed of implementation. That's how we get into progress. The greatest motivation is progress. We take action, and if we make mistakes, we make corrections, we fix them, and then we keep moving. That's how it works. That's how you learn how to walk, ride a bike, everything that you've done that required some testing and some trial and error. So in this video today, I'm going to share with you a unique system that is going to help you solve this problem. And in fact, there's 3 things that are getting in your way. Just 3. Those 3 things are going to get in your way and stop you from taking action. You're going to be in motion instead of taking action. So motion versus action. So let's define what motion is first. Motion is when you're doing things that are preparation related. So you're preparing when, you might have like 3 prospects. So you have 3 prospects, you think that's great. You've taken, you've gotten some response. You're in motion, but, are you taking action? Are you going to move ahead with them? Are you presenting your offer? We can do a lot of things to prepare. I've written a book. I've written an entire book. It's 45,000 words and it's ready to go. That's motion. Action would be finding a publisher, getting it published, getting it out to the world. But I haven't done it yet. Why? Well, because there's 3 things that can stop you, and one of them stopped me. So I'm going to share that with you right now, why you don't want to let these 3 things stop you. So the first thing that is stopping you is your need to avoid criticism. So we avoid criticism. Why? Fear of failure. We don't want to fail. We don't want to be criticized. We don't want to be humiliated. We fear not being able to handle that kind of experience. We don't want that. It feels uncomfortable. It feels icky. Why would you do something that feels extremely uncomfortable and know that you are going to do it? You're not going to do it. It's like asking somebody a question when you know that they're going to just criticize you. You're not going to ask because they're going to criticize you. They're going to knock you down, and they might do it in a public space, and that's even worse. You don't want that, right? So the key here is that we are avoiding criticism all of the time. We're constantly assessing and figuring out whether we are going to win or succeed in a certain environment, or if we're trying to pitch something or trying to get somebody to do something, we don't want to be rejected. That's why objections are so difficult to handle. People don't handle rejection very well. They just don't know how to handle it. So we avoid that. We try to get away from it. We run away from it. We don't want to be criticized. Fear of failure is the biggest thing that stops us. Napoleon Hill talked about it in his book. He said that people fear what other people are going to say about them. That's the greatest fear. It's what they're going to say or think about them. I mean, think about it for a second. People are going to say and think things all the time. Everybody has an opinion, except, do you value it? You have to ask yourself, do I value this? I mean, if somebody came up to you on the street, walking down the street and said to you, hey, you're an idiot, would you say, oh, you're so right. I feel so horrible. This is disastrous. Thanks for bringing it to my attention. You wouldn't care. You would say, oh, that person's a little bit, lost and doesn't know me, and so I don't care. But if it's somebody that you know, your family or your friends or colleagues, somebody you respect, then you take it to heart, and you will not put yourself in a position where you can be criticized. So you avoid it. You don't want to be criticized. Now, the next thing that you don't want or that is happening is, there's fear of criticism, and then there is criticism itself, that you're criticizing yourself. And we have what's called inner critics. So we have inner critics all the time that are trying to take us down. They're trying to, keep us safe. That's what the inner critic does. The inner critic is that little voice inside of our head saying, you don't have to go and do that. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to feel unusual. It's something that we haven't tried before or tested before, and there's a risk. We could be embarrassed. And we're just not going to do that. So we avoid doing things because we're criticizing ourselves. So we have avoidance going on one side here. We're avoiding criticism, but then here we are criticizing ourselves. And guess what that inner critic does? It creates an inner conflict. So it creates a clash inside of our mind. And so now we're conflicting with ourselves. We're avoiding things because we don't want to be criticized, and then we're criticizing ourselves as well. So double-edged sword. We're trying to run away from things, and at the same time, our own mind is trying to keep us safe. And so what are we doing? We're immobilized. We're paralyzed. We're not moving forward, right? We don't have enough courage or confidence to do the kinds of things that are going to cause us to take action, right? Which we're talking about here. How are we going to take action if we are avoiding criticism and we're criticizing ourselves all at once? We're basically going against ourselves. We're not doing things by taking. We're in action. We're not getting into action. And we are now criticizing ourselves. And so we basically hit the brakes. It's like we have our foot on the gas pedal. We're saying, I'm very excited about this. It's going to be awesome. I'm going to go and do this thing. I'm going to go and talk in front of this audience. And, speaking is one of the greatest fears, as you know. So I'm going to go speak and I'm going to feel good and this is going to be great. And then it sinks in and you start realizing, maybe somebody says to you, hey, have you done this before? Did you practice? Are you ready? Do you feel good? And you're like, I don't know. Right. And then the inner critic's going to chime in and say, well, hey, you know what? You're not a pro at this. And, you didn't practice enough. And, maybe you should just put it off and not do it now. And that's what happens. But if you practice, and it does take practice. Listen, I've practiced thousands of times. I've been in front of classes of people on spin bikes for 12 years. For 12 years, at least once or twice, or maybe sometimes 3 times a week, I was in front of these classes. And I didn't think much about it, but really, I can go in front of any audience right now because a class is a class, a group is a group. It's just, a bunch of people. So, I have no fear of being in front of people, and I've been on stages with thousands of people in the audience, and I've been on, in small groups of 40, 50, or 100. It doesn't really matter, but it's the practice that makes it easy. So that's what you can do to overcome that inner critic and avoiding being criticized is to practice. Do the practice. The practice is developing your competence, right? That's competence, and then you're going to develop courage and confidence, right? The confidence will come, and then ultimately you'll have courage, and you'll be able to do this anytime, anywhere, anyhow. I've been called on stage to do a presentation, just impromptu. Just called up there and asked to do the presentation. I didn't know the presentation entirely, but I knew the slides, and I was able to ad lib. I could just do it. So, because I'm confident. If I wasn't confident, I would stumble and I would probably quit. And get off the stage. So those are the first 2 things. We're avoiding criticism, right? We do not want to be humiliated. And then we are criticizing ourselves. That inner critic is hitting us. And by the way, if you want some videos and some trainings on your inner critic, just let me know. Let me know in the comments and I'll send it to you. I did a 30-day training on this. So if you want to really go deep on your inner critic and solve that, then I'm happy to share that with you. Now, the third thing that you're going to run into that is always there, and a lot of us have it, is perfectionism. So perfectionism is like carrying around a 20-ton shield. Brené Brown talks about this, and she said it's like carrying around a 20-ton shield. Just pretend you're carrying around a 20-ton shield. I mean, you couldn't lift it, but if you had a shield and it was 20 tons, and you're trying to protect yourself. You're trying to protect yourself from people criticizing you, and you're trying to protect yourself from humiliation and all sorts of things like that. You're trying to be safe and secure without being vulnerable. That's the key here, right? So your inner perfectionist is stopping you. You're sitting there, holding back and thinking, this isn't just right, or I can make it better, or whatever, like this little training I'm doing here right now. I have some notes and I have some details about it, but I'm going from memory, and I'm just doing this so that you can understand motion versus action. It's not important to me what you think or feel about me. It's important that you get this information and put it into action. So I'm not trying to be perfect about it. I drew this triangle. I came up with these, I knew these 3 things get in the way all the time. And I know that motion versus action is a critical factor. Why? Eben Pagan said so. Speed of implementation. That's what successful people do. Everybody else lets life get in the way and lets these three things get in the way. Your avoidance, your criticism and self-criticism, and your perfectionism. That's what's getting in the way. And perfectionism is you trying to get things just right. You think that there's a better version of it. And so you keep improving and tweaking and modifying it. You know what it's like. That article or that webinar or that web page or my website or whatever it is, that presentation wasn't just right and I could make it better. And you're looking for ways to make it better and better and better and better. That's your perfectionism, right? You're carrying around this 20-ton shield. You're trying to protect yourself from being hit by daggers from other people, these daggers of criticism and these daggers of cynicism. And what are you doing? You're just stopping yourself. You're not getting into action, which is the critical factor. If you are just taking action, guess what? Then you could learn from it. You make mistakes and you get better and better and better. What did Michael Jordan say? You miss the shots that you don't take, right? That's just the way it is. You have to take the shots. Right? You don't know if it's going to happen or if it's going to work or not, but you take the shots and then you find out and then you know what to fix. And as you fix things, guess what? It gets better and better and better and better. There's a great producer and actor called Buster Keaton. Now, he's from the days of black and white movies, but his movies were phenomenal because the first half of the movie, he was trying all sorts of things. He has a great movie called The General. You can look it up on YouTube. And The General was him on a train learning how to get a train moving and operate it and move logs and all sorts of things on it. And he was making all sorts of mistakes. That's the first half of the movie. Second half, he applied everything he learned. And man, it looks really, really dangerous what he's doing. If you want to watch a really neat movie, black and white movie, The General is amazing. And you'll see how the first half, he tried and tested and made all sorts of mistakes. And then he applied what he learned the second half. That's how you go from being in motion into action. You learn from your mistakes. You learn from what you've tried and you apply it. And then you see how that moves you forward and how you make progress. And once you make progress, guess what? You've just built up your courage and your confidence. Remember, I was talking about that earlier. So your courage and your confidence. How do you do that? With competence. You just keep taking action. You keep taking action and testing and trying and making attempts, right? We wouldn't have light bulbs if it weren't for Edison making attempts at creating the bulb. So remember, if motion is what you're doing, you're writing, you're creating, you're thinking, you're talking to others and so on, but you're not getting into action. And action is when you get right down to work and you start doing things and you start seeing results and other people start reflecting it back to you. And guess what? The easiest way to know if you're in action is when people are appreciating, validating, and celebrating you. That's how you know when you've been taking action. When people are saying, wow, here's an award. Here's a Stevie Award. Here's an amazing business award that you have taken action. You've accomplished things. Think about Forbes 500, Forbes 1000, Forbes 5000. Why do they have these different categories for people? Why? Well, because they're taking action and they're celebrating them. Just like YouTube, if you get 10,000 viewers, 100,000 viewers and so on, they're sending you plaques all the time, right? Celebrating your little wins. Why? Because you're taking action and you're building it up. And you're building up your courage and your confidence and getting into results. So those are the things that you can do to get into action and make progress. Are you in motion? Are you taking action? Are you getting into motion and then following up with the action? If you're not doing that, then watch this video again. Grab that article that post that I wrote and those points that I put in the slide deck. And like I said, if there's something that I can help you with, let's send me a direct message and we'll chat. All right. Good seeing you here. And I hope you got extreme value out of this because these are the kinds of things that are holding people back. I see it all the time. All right. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again on my next video.